Now, in other news, Zimbabwe's Finance Minister Mthuli Ncube has responded to protests seen in his country. President Emmerson Mnangagwa has to cancel his plans after violent protests over a steep fuel price hike. Ncube spoke to ENCA's senior reporter Annika Lassen on the sidelines of the World Economic Forum in Davos in Switzerland.
We've managed to find the Zimbabwean Finance Minister, Mthuli Ncube, who is joining us now. Remember that Zimbabwean President Emmerson Mnangagwa decided to cancel his trip at the last minute to attend to domestic concerns, but Zimbabwe still has a delegation here. And as they are one of our closest neighbours, we like to keep a close eye on exactly what is going on in our neighbouring country, because as our President has said, stability in Zimbabwe is imperative to stability in the region. Minister Ncube, thank you so much for joining us, and we're most appreciative of your time.
Thank you, Annika.
What is happening between South Africa and Zimbabwe? Are the two countries talking?
Oh, the two countries are talking, and they are always talking, by the way. We know that we have excellent relations that go back decades. Most favored nation, status arrangements. Basically, that's what it is. We have a bilateral, binational commission between the two countries. We have a relationship between the central banks, and now we have a very strong relationship within the ministries of finance. So really, we are talking continuously to see how South Africa can be more supportive of where Zimbabwe wants to move in terms of its economic reform agenda, and we continue to talk. And so far, so good. You have seen the comments from President Ramaphosa, which has been very positive, and we thank him for that. The comments from the Minister of Finance, Tito Mboweni. I just met with the President briefly, Ramaphosa, this afternoon. I had coffee with the Governor of Central Bank, Lesecha, Khanyago, and yesterday I met with Tito Mboweni. So we continue to enjoy these warm and supportive relations. I would say our relationship is excellent.
Has there been any promise for short-term credit to make sure that you can help write off your $4.7 billion loan?
Well, we continue to have a dialogue. We continue to have discussions. We're really at the beginning of those conversations, so to say. We'll see how things evolve to see how South Africa could really become a partner in making sure that we can deal with our arrears clearance. And by the way, it's not just about South Africa extending resources or whatever. It's about South Africa also giving us the support we need internationally within the Bretton Woods institutions, within the Paris Club family of creditors to Zimbabwe. That support, that extra voice coming from Africa, from the region, from South Africa, is needed for us to successfully restructure our debt globally.
Are you having to deal with the reports that came out of Zimbabwe 2 weeks ago of a brutal crackdown, of a internet shutdown, altogether severe and quite serious domestic problems? How are you dealing with those here at the World Economic Forum?
Well, you know what? The President of Zimbabwe has been very clear as of yesterday when he arrived that, look, violence has no place in our political space, in our dialogue across the divide, and is calling for us to close that divide through peace, through unity, through dialogue. He's very clear about that. He said there's no place for violence, and in a sense he's leading from the front and is leading the government in that direction, a more peaceful environment and calm. And by the way, there is calm right now. You mentioned the issue of the internet. This was just a tactical instrument, a tactical maneuver to try to contain the situation. It was not it was temporary. It was not an issue of permanency. And look, after a couple of days or so, the internet is back and is back to business. It was just a simple way to try to contain the situation. And I think let's say that it kind of worked somewhat, or rather it contributed to stabilizing the situation.
But how would that contain the situation? It seems that shutting off the internet is almost a human rights abuse. I mean, it's preventing your people from communicating with the rest of the world.
No, the first priority was not so much thinking about communicating with the rest of the world. The first priority is the internet being used as an instrument for mobilizing some kind of insurrection. So the role of law enforcement agencies is exactly that, which is to control those kind of things, bring order. But what's the priority is to protect the innocent, protect property, because property was being looted. And I think they were wondering, how is this all being organized. It seems so well organized, given the power of social media and the internet. So I think there was a feeling that perhaps this is one instrument that can be used to try to stabilize things. And I think it had some effect. And I think that it was probably the right thing to do. But it was temporary. As we said, it was absolutely temporary. And this, I guess, is not something that will be done often. Unless, again, there's obviously a very similar, very violent situation. And of course, we all thought that this was uncharacteristic in terms of the extent of the violence on the streets. It was very unusual. So it maybe did require some kind of unusual means to try to tackle it.
When President Mnangagwa took over from Robert Mugabe, there was a sense that there was going to be reform. How much of that has actually happened? I think it's been about a year now since there's been a new president.
No, it's been 4 months. Because if you look at the mandate for the real new dispensation under President Mnangagwa, that really started in September. Before that, he was barely completing a term for the previous dispensation. And the Transitional Stabilization Program was only launched on the 4th of October in 2018. So it's only been running for 2 months. So the reform agenda is basically 2 months old. But it's very clear we're determined to walk the talk. It cuts across fiscal discipline, making sure that we live within our means as government. It means that we also have to deal with our arrears situation in terms of debts that we owe to the AFDB and the African Development Bank in full, the World Bank and the Paris accredited nations. It means that we deal with currency reform. But it also means that we strengthen the notion of a private sector-led economy through privatization, through the structuring of state-owned enterprises so they become efficient, they create more jobs, and we have 11 of them, by the way, and we're very clear as to what we need in terms of resources to make them work. Also, we're opening up investments in the mining sector. We have incredible opportunities in the lithium, in platinum, in diamonds, coal, gold, right across the board. Incredible investments again in the agricultural sector, looking at the inputs, for instance, in the fertilizer sector, agricultural equipment, agro-processing. I mean, think of a cigarette factory to process tobacco rather than exporting it raw. All those are opportunities within Zimbabwe that we're opening up for business, for investors, both domestic but mainly foreign. We're establishing a one-stop investment shop. Hopefully, investors will find this an easy way to enter into the country. We're just making it easy to do business. We removed the indigenization law, which was compelling investors to make sure that they can't go above 51% in terms of investment. We dealt with that. Now they can own 100%, except in the diamond sector, where we've limited that. But again, who knows what will happen in the next few years. So we're opening up this space for investors. And investors are savvy, they're sophisticated. They do understand that doing reforms, walking the talk on that, will cause turbulence. There's turbulence, but it's not stalling. So what you see now on the ground in Zimbabwe is just turbulence. It just shows that we are reforming something, we are doing something. There's the issue about us having the most expensive fuel in the world. That is incorrect. I want to correct that. Basically, what was happening was that our fuel in Zimbabwe was being bought for something like 40 cents a litre and then being sold internally, but also externally in other countries. We get truckers coming, and I'll be very direct, let's say out of South Africa or somewhere else, with extra tank space for petrol, and then they'll fill up in Zimbabwe and all their way to Zambia, and then offload that petrol in Zambia and make money, easy money, by the way. You're buying something for 40 cents, reselling it for $1 plus. So we close that arbitrage opportunity. That's what the petrol price was about. If you look at it really in real terms, the petrol price is just above $1 hard US dollar. So it's not expensive at all.
But can you guarantee fuel supply?
Well, we have to work on that. Zimbabwe has got obviously a currency shortage issue in terms of foreign currency. But believe it or not, what's happening is that Zimbabwe, if you look at currency inflows, foreign currency inflows, we have enough of that. The issue is that it is not being netted by the financial sector, by the monetary sector, for it to apply to those industries that are net users of it, such as the fuel sector. That is the issue. So reform of the monetary sector is key to dealing with the harnessing foreign currency. As long as we have this system right now, we'll have a foreign currency shortage. But also, we need to stimulate the productive sector. That's why it's important to have a domestic currency that will reestablish competitiveness, push exports out, make sure that we can earn enough foreign currency. We reform and support the banking sector so that it can net in all the forex, and then we will not have a forex problem in the future.
Very quickly, has Russia offered to come to your aid at all? Have you approached Russia?
Oh, well, by the way, we visited Russia, we visited Belarus, we visited Kazakhstan, and we learned a lot. It's just amazing. What we have in common with Russia is really the mining sector, the diamond sector, but also the fertilizer sector, where we actually need investment in that sector. The same thing applies to Azerbaijan. They have an incredible sovereign wealth fund that we can learn from. If you look at what Kazakhstan has done in terms of using its oil and gas sovereign wealth fund to really transform the economy. If you go to Astana, the capital, it's just amazing, So we've been doing those rounds, trying to learn and understand. And really, it was about business, to making sure that we can attract investors from that region, but also learn on how to deal with structural transformation. That's really what was the purpose.
You've got to go and meet again President Cyril Ramaphosa. Just any idea of the next follow-up meeting that you'll be having with a South African delegation?
We continue to have dialogue, to meet whenever we can. This is normal, by the way. There's nothing abnormal. This is normal. So again, we'll be meeting in the next few months, continue to have dialogue and see how we can continue to strengthen that relationship of cooperation and support. And we really welcome that. And we thank President Ramaphosa, the Minister of Finance as well, for their support. At least we know the entire South African government is very supportive. I mean, Minister Lindiwe Sisulu has been out there supporting Zimbabwe, and we appreciate all of that.
Have they condemned any of the brutality by police or internet shutdowns that we saw 2 weeks ago?
South Africa has full confidence in Zimbabwe and Zimbabwe leadership to deal with these issues and do the right thing on these issues. They have full confidence on that. They don't have to condemn anything. They understand that we can do it. They know that we will also do this for ourselves so that we can truly become an upper middle income country and join those countries that sit in that category globally. So they have full confidence in us.
Last question for clarification. Has South Africa given Zimbabwe any money, and have they promised any money?
We're in dialogue. We're in discussion. So it's not about promising money on the table. We'll see how this dialogue evolves, how the discussions evolve within our excellent cooperation over time. It may result in some resources being extended to Zimbabwe, and we'll gladly welcome those resources from an excellent neighbor like South Africa.
Thank you so much for your time. It was a fascinating interview there with Finance Minister of Zimbabwe, Mthuli Ncube, who said that no money has exchanged hands or been promised by South Africa. There is ongoing dialogue between the two countries. He said they have a very good relationship with South Africa, and they'll be in talks for the next few months to try and solve issues of hyperinflation and massive debt in our neighbouring country.